It's titled America's #1 in gun ownership and gun deaths. It's time to wake the hell up. Of course, yesterday, 10 people were murdered by a mass shooter in California. It's the 37th mass shooting of this year. We're 23 days into 2023, and over 2,200 Americans have already died of gun violence. We are literally the only developed country in the world that unconditionally allows civilians to own military-style assault weapons, that allows open carry, and that lets gun manufacturers openly buy politicians. Thank you, Supreme Court. And as a consequence, we are the only country in the world where the leading cause of death for children is being blown apart by bullets. America has just a bit more than 4% of the world's population, but we have 40% of the world's guns in civilian hands. For every 100 people in America, there are 120 guns. Next highest on the list among developed nations is Canada, 34 per 100 people. And none of those are assault weapons. And all the other developed countries are lower down on that list. South Korea, Taiwan, and Japan, for example, all clock in at fewer than 1 gun per 100 people. Keep in mind, we have 120 guns per 100 people. We not only lead the world in gun ownership, but we also lead the world in gun deaths. This is from the American Journal of Medicine. U.S. homicide rates are 7 times higher than other high-income countries, driven by a gun homicide rate that's 25 times higher. For 15 to 24-year-olds, the gun homicide rate in the United States was 49 times higher. Firearm-related suicide rates are 8 times higher in the United States. Unintentional firearm deaths, 6.2 times higher in the United States. Overall firearm death rate in the United States from all causes is 10 times higher. Astonishingly, they had 90% of all women killed by firearms in 23 developed and wealthy countries. 90% of all the women killed in those countries are right here in the United States, as well as 91% of all children killed by firearms, right here in the United States. And you add up the population of those countries, and it's more than twice the population of the United States. This is just breathtaking. Other countries have gotten their gun violence under control by basically a couple of simple things. Number one, they ban military-style assault weapons. Number two, if you want to have a gun, that's fine. You must be registered. Your gun must be registered, and you must be licensed. I would add, I think in the United States, that we should also include mandatory liability insurance like we do for cars. 57% of Americans agree with this. 85% of Democrats want stricter gun laws in America. But then you've got two problems. And it's really two problems that are driving this. Number one, you've got a Supreme Court that has been saying since 1976 that since 78 in the case of corporations, if corporations want to buy politicians, that's just fine. That's not illegal. That is their exercise of their First Amendment right under free speech, because corporations are persons and therefore they're entitled to constitutional rights, which is a doctrine that was never put into place by any legislature anywhere in this country. No state, no federal legislature, nobody has ever even proposed such legislation that corporations are persons and should have rights under the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Never. But the Supreme Court came up with this on their own, and they have made it our law. I shouldn't say the Supreme Court. 5 corrupt Republicans on the Supreme Court have made this our law. And as a result, you've got the firearms industry owning large chunks of the Republican Party. And a couple of Democrats, but mostly Republicans, almost exclusively now Republicans. So that's one part of the problem, is that the gun industry can legally purchase politicians to protect themselves. The second part of the problem is that we now have a Republican Party since Donald Trump, since 2015, that openly embraces the idea of civilians murdering politicians and each other over politics. After Kyle Rittenhouse was acquitted, Madison Cawthorn, who was then a congressman from, I believe, North Carolina, Republican congressman, said that Republicans should be armed and dangerous. He was celebrating the quote, victory of Kyle Rittenhouse, who asked his mother to drive him 200 miles with an AR-15 to a protest. As Jeff Tiedrich pointed out this morning in his Substack, if I had asked my mother to do that, it would have been a week before she stopped slapping me silly. Please drive me someplace with an assault weapon so I can shoot at protesters, unarmed protesters. And he killed 2 and blew half the arm off another one. After the Rittenhouse verdict, Marjorie Taylor Greene said, and I quote, "Guns are the only thing holding back the communist revolution the Democrats are waging." I mean, as long as we have neo-fascists like these in the Republican Party trying to push America toward a civil war, opposition to gun control seems to be the main issue that Republicans are embracing. Because it appears that they're enthusiastic about seeing Democrats and people of color die at the hands of vigilantes. In fact, after the Black Lives Matter protests, support for gun control among Republicans went from 36% down to 22%. It used to be that Republicans opposed gun control because of the NRA money, but now it appears it's because, hey, an armed society is a right-wing society. I mean, this is just boggling, just mind-boggling. The rest of the world is looking at us going, what the hell? It's way past time to wake the hell up and do something about guns. The number to call your members of Congress, today is the day you should be calling, right now, 202-224-3121. You have 1 member of the House of Representatives and 2 senators. You can call all 3 of them with that number, 202-224-3121.